Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover Warren 20 here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. So, this movie is basically a remake of a first installment I reviewed, a franchise that I've already reviewed the first three films out of. And it was for a film that came out in 2014, and was unfortunately once again PG-13 rated, unlike its rated R first two movies. And that movie is, of course, RoboCop, the 2014 remake. Now, yeah, I remember hating this movie when I first saw it. I thought it was an absolute disgrace to the original movie. It was, in fact, actually a lot of people hated it when it came out. It didn't do good with critics. It got a 49% Rotten Tomatoes. It didn't even do good at the domestic box office, only making $58 million domestically, despite its $242 million worldwide gross. And unfortunately, they were going to make a sequel to this, but it got canceled because, thankfully, we're getting a direct sequel to the first one called RoboCop Returns. So, yeah. So, what is the movie about? Well, basically the same plot of the 1987 film, but with major changes. I will say it anyway. It's the year 2028, and Omnicorp and greedy company, this time Omnicorp, not SCP, uses robotic technology to transform criminally injured police officer Alex Murphy, this time played by Joel Kinnaman, into the ultimate crime fighter RoboCop. He's part man and part machine. Back on the streets, Murphy is hardwired for law enforcement, but the mind and memories of the human inside long to take over, and the result could be catastrophic. Yeah, so that's the movie. That's what the film's about. Here's now, but eventually, after I gave it a rewatch, I don't think it's as bad as people try to make it out to be. I mean, it's still not a good film compared to the original movie by any means, but it's still kind of a decent remake, and it's certainly better than most other remakes, especially the Total Recall remake. Because, well, if you saw the Total Recall remake and hated as much as I did as well, then you're thinking I must hate this remake as well. Well, no, not really, but here's kind of why. Well, like, the action is, like, still pretty good, if not as good as the original film. It's still got some decent political media satire, and there is, like, a few good throwbacks to the original movie. Like, they still do show a little bit of a cameo shot for the iconic suit, and plus actually, Michael Keaton actually plays the villain in this movie, and I think he actually does a pretty good job as a villain. Kind of just as good as with Vulture and Spider-Man Homecoming. And so basically, RoboCop's nemesis is technically RoboCop and Batman are enemies in this film, if you kind of think about it. But I think kind of like the bad parts of this movie are, once again, it's PG-13, it's not rated R like the first two, and RoboCop is a rated R series, and we love him rated R, and whatever. But RoboCop Returns at least is going to go back to the R rating. I really hope it stays rated R, guys. It's got a kind of a bizarre storyline, and I really don't think this was the best way to go. After the third film, especially the freaking third film, murdered the franchise 21 years before this movie even got released. And the fact that there were too many changes to the story compared to the original, sort of not helping all with the major flaws, and instead of focusing more on action scenes, it kind of feels more like a drama and action film, and more of a drama police film. There's not really much action, and it's kind of true dramatic, really, and it can get kind of boring every once in a while. Joel Kinnaman is alright as RoboCop. I mean, he's just he doesn't really sound all that robotic compared to Peter Weller's version, but he's definitely better than Robert John Burke. I'll give him that. Just gonna think of him. The final fight is very not really well choreographed. and it just kind of feels like your average shot in the dark fight, and it's kind of a little hard to see at times, and much like with RoboCop 2, the script's not very good. There's not too many likable characters in the film. But all in all, guys, is this a terrible remake? It's a disappointing remake, but not one of the worst out there. Like, there's like way, way worse reboots like Van Forstick, or Van Force shit as I call it. Or how about Elm Street 2010? Now those are worse remakes and worse reboots than this. So, but honestly, I'd still stick with the original film, maybe even the second one, but if you want a masterpiece RoboCop film, that's definitely the original movie. But here's how I would rank the 2014 remake of RoboCop. I will give the 2014 remake a 6.5 out of 10. Now, like with RoboCop 2, not a horrible movie, aka, well, not as horrible as people make it out to be, but it's definitely just really disappointing compared to the original film. But this would probably have to be the third best of the series, and it's still a freaking masterpiece compared to the one that came before this one, which I've all reviewed and thankfully don't have to re-talk about. But, hello guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.